Leo 7, constellations in the sky. Now, as much as life is impermanent, constant change all the time, intellectually we might enjoy that idea, but emotionally, really, we don't. Emotionally, we yearn for stability, constancy, permanence. And we're conditioned so much in our very first few months on Earth by the need for stability. The baby just wants to know that since it has no power to manifest its own will or wishes, it wants to know that what it needs is there all of the time without having to do anything itself. That's the condition of a baby wanting milk. And that emotional impact never dies away. So there is a part of us, baby-like, that needs to know that something is fixed, something is permanent. And if you go back a long, long time before philosophy and intellect replaced raw emotion in the psyche of the human species, we can imagine the hunter-gatherers in their caves just looking for what might be stable for them, might be reliable. So they looked up, they saw the stars. They didn't change. Some of them changed, the planets moved, and they called them the travelers, and they based astrology on their study of them. But some of them didn't move, the stars. And so the stars represent stability and security and fixity of truth. And because we're looking up, it's not real in the same sense of looking down. Looking down at the earth, you have the animals and the vegetables that we either eat or get eaten by in the hunter-gatherer days. But you look up and you're moving into this realm of imagination and fantasy, and we project our dreams onto the stars. We catch a falling star and dream on a star, and we make these strange images up that there's a man in the moon, and everything up there is fanciful. And yet there's a very profound foundation to any esoteric study at all, and that is the wisdom of Hermes Trismegistus, as above, so below. In this case, above is above, the stars are above, so there must be something below, something on earth that represents the stars. Usually the phrase as above, so below means wherever something is, it is elsewhere. In fact, it is everywhere. Whatever pattern exists one place exists in every place. That's the basic meaning of as above, so below. So here we have the idea that our dream catchers, that the stars that catch our dreams and turn them into stories. You know, we've seen patterns in the skies and called them constellations and given them names. That looks like a bear, that looks like a bull, that looks like a woman. Well, they really don't. They really don't look like that at all. It takes a huge amount of imagination to create the pictures of the constellations. It's ridiculous, really. And yet it wasn't ridiculous at all to the early ones who did that. They needed that stability. They needed to see something up there that wasn't there. Now, I talk endearingly about the hunter-gatherers needing to do this, but really that hasn't died out. It's a very unusual person that has moved beyond the need for belief and stability and security on the mind level. The scientists would say that they're the people that have done that. They look for facts and figures, and they don't believe in anything which is not measurable and provable. And that's what they believe, but it really isn't true. It really isn't true. They make assumptions and they don't check them out. One of their assumptions is that you can measure everything, that everything has form and it's fixed, that the existence of the real world is a fact, is a given fact. Well, it's not. It isn't. There's no mystic that would suggest that that's true. There's a different point of view, and the scientists just claim that their point of view is the case without proving it, but they can't prove it. Every time they try to prove it, it demonstrates that they can't. So, including scientists and including materialists, we all make something up to believe in because we need this sense of something permanent in our lives. Now, the extent to which we move away from checking out what we believe in against facts and figures, the extent to which we move away from that is a measure of how silly we are. There are people that believe in the flat earth. I'm willing to look into that topic if they want me to, and to find proof that the earth is round. And I did that. I tried to prove it myself. And the best proof, I think, is that the flight times between two cities in the northern latitudes and the flight times of two cities in the southern latitudes are identical. That's the proof I need. So, there's an example. The Flat Earth Society believe in something which I think is silly. There's other things which people believe in which are also silly, such as every Taurus is like this, and every Virgo is like that, and every Taurus likes every Virgo. What absolute nonsense. And astrology seems to attract quite a lot of silly people. I'm an astrologer, so I'm safe to speak against astrology without being accused of dogma and bigotry. I've studied the matter, and I find it unreasonable to claim that Taurus is like this. I think there may well be a tendency, a propensity, but I think that it's by no means the overwhelming force of the matter, that there are other factors that are more important than astrology in determining a person's behavior, such as their genetic makeup, in other words, their parents, such as how they were brought up as children. There are other factors here. So, this yearning that we have for stability projected onto the constellations in the sky, that looks like a bull, that looks like a lion. That's a phenomenon that we need to deal with in life. It is the case that most people are silly. In other words, they don't check their facts before they begin to believe something, which is what gives rise to the possibility of fake news. The press was somewhat governed so that when it printed a story, it wasn't total nonsense to some extent. Well, Facebook isn't. Not really. Most of these social media posts really do need checking out before we believe in them. And this is true of everything, really, everything. Even claims about the implications of a viral illness, the corona. A lot of those claims were not checked out against facts, and because of that, people died. This is not a small matter that we're dealing with here. This is quite a serious question. The mind is responsible for making up our life experience for us. And it is as capable of dreaming dragons as it is of dreaming angels. The mind can be a tool of some powerful destructive ability. We can destroy our lives by insisting on a pessimistic interpretation of possibility. And what grounds us to defend against that psychological disorder are facts. If you dream that there's going to be a monster waiting for you under the bed when you go to bed tonight, and you look under the bed and there is no monster, then you can relax because you've checked it out. You've checked out what you imagined against the facts of the matter. And we need to do this to avoid disorder of the mind. And believing in something that cannot be is a disorder of the mind. It not only renders us silly, it denies us the possibility of forming a correct relationship with life itself. And we live in this delusion of nonsense where we take the child's point of view, believing that Santa Claus is not metaphor, there exists Santa Claus and tooth fairies and so on, and we can't think properly. And if we can't think properly, then we cannot create the circumstances of our lives properly. We are confused and we are wrong-minded. We are taken by cheats more easily, and we are seduced into believing marketing men and politicians and seducers in romance and so on. So these are real dangers. They take us off track. And one of the most serious dangers is when we apply this silliness to our spiritual quest. Now, for me, this is a real hobby horse. I am frustrated beyond description by the number of people I have met who believe that they're on a serious spiritual quest by studying the mysteries. And they're not studying the mysteries, they're just reading books. They don't choose which books to read properly, they choose by the prettiness of the picture on the cover. And they take advice from some other silly person about what to read. There's so much to read if you want to read it. And it's mostly just repeating what has been written before and not checked out. And that's the same with would-be seekers who think that astrology is an easy thing to study. It's so complex. I've been at it for 40 years or more, and I'm starting to understand what astrology is all about. It's taken that long for me to get to grips with some of it, you know. And I don't think it's a good idea for us to go headlong, helter-skelter into the esoteric world, partly because it's dangerous. If this is magic, and that's what we're talking about here, if this is magic, then it needs to be treated with a huge amount of respect. Magic is power. It's the power to create things the way you choose them to be. It's real power. And every power that there is, whatever kind it is, whether it's electricity or nuclear or the power of charisma, every power is dangerous. Power is dangerous. So if you go in a silly-headed way into any esoteric study, you're walking into danger without any safeguard. So I think this Leo 7 teaching is basically the constellations exist only in our imagination. The stars exist, that's a fact, but the constellations, this is not a fact. This is an imagination, a creative statement of really what we would like it to be, nothing more. Be warned, be careful. The world of esoteric thought is fraught with danger, and the first and foremost danger is that you need to study to understand it, and if you don't study properly, taking different serious points of view and considering them and meditating on them and really go to town on trying to work out the truth of the matter, then you're going to be wrong. And that means you're going to think wrongly, and that means you're going to create your life wrongly for you, and you're going to be confused and distracted and not focused on the matter in hand. Check out your facts before you believe something, especially when you're studying magic.